3, verses 16 to 25. Evam pravasthitam chakram nanuvartayate gayaha akayurindriya ramaha mokham patasajivati yasvasmarati devasyat atmatrittasya manavaha atmanyeva cha santushtaha tasya karyam na vidyate naiva tasya krite nasaha nakrite neha kaścana na chasya sarva bhuteshu kaśchidastasya pashrayah tasmadasastas sadatam karyam karma samachara asakto yacharan karma paramapnoti purushah karmanaiva hi samsiddhim aastita janakadayah lokasangrahamevapi sampashyan kartumarhasi yadyatacharati shrestah tattate vetaro janah sayat pramanam kurute lokastadanuvastate name pathasti kartavyam trishu lokeshu kinchana nanavaktamavaktavyam vartayeva cha karmani yadishaham navashreyam jatu karmanyatandritah mama vatmanuvastante manushya partha sarvashah utsite yurive lokaha nakotyam karma chetaham sangarasya cha kartasyam upahanyami ma prajaha sakta karmanya visvamsah yatha kurvanti bharata kuryat visvam tatha saktah shikeshu loka sangraham.
A self-realized soul is totally self-sufficient, which is what we discussed last week. A sense of self-sufficiency, even relatively speaking, the sense of self-sufficiency arises through knowledge and understanding. A self-sufficiency that arises out of an understanding, a self-sufficiency that arises out of placing the right value. Whatsoever the value you place, that brings about a longing for it. A longing for it, a craving for it, wanting it, indicates a value for it. Self-sufficiency is you do not have a value for it. And we saw so many examples. We saw so many ways of understanding what this self-sufficiency could be. In what all ways we can understand the self-sufficiency on a relative plane. On the absolute plane, it is very easy. A person who has no desires is totally. A person who has got no desires is totally self-sufficient. And that kind of self-sufficiency is more something that you may look at it from a distance, appreciate it, prostrate, but never want to get there. When you look at a Gautam Buddha, you will you have a respect for him, you will want to, you may worship him, you may respect him, you may want to prostrate to him, but very difficult to think that I should also become a Buddha. Because that state of self-sufficiency is something that is too difficult to comprehend. Even relatively we can understand what is the self-sufficiency is, or what it could be in the relative plane. I gave that example also last week. You stole a mango, you would have stolen, you would have stole some mango when you are a child from the neighbor's tree, from the neighbor's garden. You would have stolen a mango. You will not think that you have committed a sin and you will want to do. You will not think you have committed a sin and you will want to do prayaschitta for that. You laugh at it. You laugh at it. You ignore it. You laugh at it. That is self-sufficiency. As I said, the proof of you having become self-sufficient is you will be able to laugh. Not laugh at others, anyway we are doing that anyway. That is not self-sufficiency. It's not about a state where you know that it's not worth it. A state where you have no value for it. That's the indication of the self-sufficiency itself. That's where you find all wise men, all spiritual masters always are very, very cheerful, very, very joyful. The cheer and joy is the proof of self-sufficiency. The cheer and joy is the proof of self-sufficiency. Seriousness indicates an exaggerated value. Again I repeat, when you are serious about something, if you have taken something seriously, you have given an exaggerated value to it. The right value to it will bring about a sincerity. The exaggerated value brings about a seriousness. The moment you become the moment you turn serious, you are affected by it already. And when you tell the person, don't be serious, what goes out? The very doing itself goes out. The very intensity in the doing itself goes out. You follow? Just recap all this. I gave so many stories for all this. I'm just trying to recollect the whole thing. What is this? Self-sufficiency is a state where you are able to laugh at it because you have understood it has no value. But still you do it. Why? That's obligation. You have no value for it, you have no interest in it, but still you do it because that doing is your obligation. Therefore you do. That person is totally self-sufficient. when you are not, when can you laugh, when can you smile at a situation? You can smile at a situation, you can laugh at a situation only when you know how to handle it. You turn serious when you do not know how to handle it. Again I repeat, a situation becomes serious when you do not know how to handle it. As a mathematical formula, you can keep it. Life creates situations, it doesn't create problems. Life creates situations. Life is the each and every experience, each and everything is one situation. A situation that you do not know how to handle is what you call as a problem. What is the definition of a problem? I am faced with the problem. Means what? You are faced with the situation which you do not know how to handle. Supposing if you know how to handle that situation, the situation ceases to be a problem. Therefore, what is the definition of a problem? A situation that you do not know how to handle. The moment you know how to handle it, the very situation becomes so light. You will not be there will not be any seriousness at all in relation to that situation. And the fact that you are able to handle that situation is what is known as self-sufficiency. For a wise man, there is no situation in the world, in this planet, that he will not know how to handle. So throughout he is, relatively speaking also, a situation that you do not know how to handle is what you call as a problem. Ask anyone, what is the definition of a problem? It is a problem for you because you do not know how to handle it. For a person who knows how to handle it, it's not a problem. Therefore, imagine a state where you will be encountering situation after situation after situation, and you will know how to handle, and you will know how to handle all the situation. About what you will be serious? You can't be serious about anything. And that person will not know what seriousness is, because he knows how to handle. And the ability to handle comes through knowledge and understanding. That is very clear. Yeah, that's the problem. At least that much theoretically we understand. It comes through knowledge and understanding. So, what is the self-sufficiency all about? Self-sufficiency is a state where there will not be a situation that you will not know how to handle, how to manage. And there are two ways of handling, two ways of managing. In your area of expertise, you will manage. In the rest of the areas, you simply surrender. That's how that person is self-sufficient. Manage doesn't mean you will know everything. A person cannot know everything. So, how does self-sufficiency work? How does one manage anything? You can manage things in, fundamentally there are only two ways in which you can manage. You have an area of expertise which you know how to handle. And there are so many other areas which you do not have any, where you don't have any expertise, where you don't have any knowledge, where you don't have any understanding. In those areas, what do? Surrender. That's how you manage. Manage doesn't mean you will know how to do, because the word manage, if I know how to manage, now people go back thinking, I will know how to do. You will not know how to do everything. But one thing is possible. What? You will know how to surrender. So either way you have handled the situation. Either way you have managed the situation. Therefore there is no problem. Where you are not facing a problem, you will be, in that area you are supposed to be, you are self-sufficient. Take it to 100%, there will not be any situation that he will not know how to handle. One way of handling is attending to it. Another way of handling it is ignoring it. That is also one way of. These are the 4-5 areas. These are the 4-5 basic ways in which you can handle situation. One way of handling is going into the details of it, analyzing and trying to work out a solution. Another way of handling it is ignoring. In fact, most of the problems of life is solved by ignoring it. Yeah. Someone says, you are a foolish man, now what is there to solve it? Or what is the way to handle that? He is saying something, let him say what you don't pay attention to it. Ignorance is where we should not pay attention, we will pay attention. What ought to be ignored, we will not ignore. We will take it seriously and investigate into it. What has to be taken seriously is ignored. Therefore, situations gets a problem and problem gets complicated. Lack of self-sufficiency. So what does self-sufficiency means? The man knows how to handle the situation. The moment he knows how to handle, he will laugh at it. Verse number 10, chapter 2. Sanjaya reports about Krishna. Prahasandiva Bharata, he says. Arjuna condition in verse number 7, 8 and 9 of chapter 2. Sishyasteham sadimam tvam prapannam, he says. I have surrendered to you. I am holding on to your feet. Please tell me what I should. Please direct me as to what I should do and what I should not do. That man is holding on to his feet, crying. And Krishna is smiling at that. Prahasandiva Bharata, he says. Prahasandiva means smiling. That's a very awkward situation too. When someone is holding on to your feet, crying, saying, you don't smile. That's why when they talk about Krishna, even in the movies, he will come smiling in a very awkward situation also. You invite him to a funeral, he will come smiling into a. He will not come smiling into a funeral. He will come. He will. At least he will put up an act of being very serious. What does that indicate? There is no situation that he doesn't know how to handle. That is self-sufficiency. Relatively, where all you are self-sufficient are the areas which you know how to handle. In the areas where you are disturbed, agitated, are the areas that you do not know how to handle. You follow? Therefore, what is self-sufficiency? The situation that you know how to handle. How would you know, where do you know how to learn the situation, all situations? That's where philosophy is very important. It teaches you how to handle the situation. As a result of which you will not have a problem. Opposite of that is lack of self-sufficiency. Lack of self-sufficiency means constantly disturbed by two factors. Either your own mind disturbs you or the environment disturbs you. Two kinds of disturbances. Either your own mind disturbs you or the environment disturbs. Self-sufficiency is undisturbed by these two. Your own mind cannot create any disturbance. The environment also ceases to disturb, because you have the right understanding of what the mind is, so you know how to handle it. You have the right understanding of what the environment around you is, and you know how to handle it. This person has become self-sufficient. all the human efforts is directed towards becoming self-sufficient, becoming independent. You can use all this synonymously. All the human efforts always is directed towards becoming more and more self-sufficient, independent. If only they don't use the word self-sufficient, independent. Yeah. Now they use the word. Same concept, but new word. Now they use the word empowerment. Everyone has to be empowered. What is empowerment? You know how to. Empowerment means what? You know how to. You know how to handle. That's all. The words keeps changing. And every new generation has to believe that they are so original. No, so they will come up with a new word, and which makes them believe that they are, which makes them believe they are different from earlier ones. The fundamental search remains the same. What? To become independent, to become self-sufficient. A self-sufficiency, a state, relatively as well as absolutely. In the absolute sense, it is very easy. At least to theorize about it at the absolute level is very easy. Unaffected by a state where unaffected by anything. That state is difficult to conceive because unaffected state always has an element of indifference to it. Unaffected state always has an element of, or that's how the mind feels it. That's how you understand it. How can you be unaffected like that, sir? This stone madri, how can you say it? That's why he says, no, Prahatandiva Bharata. He is smiling. Smiling means shows his internal state. When can you smile? When you are light and relaxed, you can smile. When can you not smile? When you are serious, you can't smile. Not only you can't smile, if anyone smiles, it is correct. It is more irritating also. Serious problem. What is there to laugh at it? You can't laugh. And philosophy class has to be much more serious. Very, very important. How can you laugh? You have to be very serious. Seriousness implies that you do not know how to handle it and you are affected by it. When you are smiling at it means you have the solution already. Krishna had the solution already for Arjuna's problem. That's why he is able to smile. The child comes with a big problem. The child goes to school and it comes to you with a very big problem that happened in the school. What will be your approach to that problem? How you will deal with that problem? How you will deal with that problem? Even before the child can start talking, you start laughing. More you laugh, more irritation the child gets, because the child wants you to be very, very serious, because he is going through a very big crisis. Same thing, we go with a crisis to a wise man, he will, because all the crisis of us is exactly like the crisis that an LKG child, see at that level it's a crisis, you can't deny that. At that level it's a big crisis. Child is affected, it's disturbed and he doesn't know how to handle, comes to you. You will also pretend to take it very seriously, but deep inside you, what is happening? You will also not you will also not start to cry, no? You will also not feel, you will also not being affected by it. In that sense it is self-sufficiency. You are able to laugh at it because you have grown. You are able to laugh at it because you are able to maintain the right distance. That's what self-sufficiency is all about. When you maintain the right distance gives you the clarity. That clarity will help you to see it clearly. You know how to handle. You follow? That's how you will know how to handle all the difficulties, all the situations. When you get too close, you will not know how to see it with clarity. Like in all the lectures he keeps saying, no, elbow room, maintain one. He keeps saying, you have to have one. You have to have elbow room. What is that elbow room? You maintain the right. There is some distance is required. It is the distance that does two things to you. One is you remain unaffected. Second is you will have clarity to see it. You will have the clarity to see it in the way that it ought to be seen. This way of functioning, this state of living is what is known as self-sufficiency. He is totally self-sufficient, he says. Satisfied in the self, by the self. He is saying everything is, all that is happening is inside himself. There is nothing that is shaking, disturbing him. Again I repeat, self-sufficiency is a state where you maintain the right, or if you have known how to maintain the right distance itself will give you a clarity. Knowledge helps you to maintain the right distance. Knowledge helps you to maintain the right. Opposite of that is getting too close, too involved. When you get too close, when you get too involved, the vision gets blurred. If something is shown so closely to your eyes, you can't see it, no? You say, take it slightly away. To the right distance you can see. Self-sufficiency is a conviction that there has to be a distance. You have to always maintain a minimum distance in relation to everything that you encounter in life. There has to be a minimum distance. Aditya sir, we maintain the minimum distance with self and Brahman. Anga you should not maintain. Anga get very, Anga get okay. It's appearance of the world only this. That's why I said on a relative plane we are discussing, not on the absolute. That's why the Brahman will maintain the right distance, never get close. When you function like this, he says, you will not increase your desires. You reach a state of absolute self-sufficiency very soon. When you function on a relative plane like this, minimum thing that is happening is you are not increasing your desires. Always remember this. If you are not decreasing your desires, you are increasing it. Full stop. You may see it, you may not see it. You may agree with it, you may not agree with it. But nevertheless, there are only two possibilities. Either the desires are increasing or it is decreasing. So one thing I can say, sir, very sure. At least my desires are not decreasing in you, but at least one thing I can say, it's not increasing. That static point doesn't exist. Life knows no static point. It's a constant It's a constant movement, it's the constant change. The constant change either in the sense of evolution or in the sense of devolution. So minimum thing is, at least do not increase your desires. When you don't increase your desires, that much of time and energy you have to look at your existing desires with clarity. And when you look at your desire with clarity, desires will disappear. Again I repeat, when you look at your own desires with clarity, the very desire disappears. Because what is a desire? What is a desire? Desire is nothing but a hope for happiness. Desire is a hope for happiness. The hope for happiness implies that you are unhappy now, and happiness is postponed to future. Happiness postponed to future, you will never get happy. For happiness always belongs to the present. Happiness belongs to the present. Doing belongs to the present. That's why it's only the doing that can give happiness. Again I repeat, only two things belongs to the present. The doing belongs to the present, happiness belongs to the present. What belongs to the past and the future? We have heard that a million times we have heard this. What belongs to the past? Worries of the past. What belongs to the future? Anxieties, hopes, anxieties for the future. What is of the present? Doing, action is of the present. The doing, that action is of the present, and the doing action itself is self-sufficiency. That doing itself is happiness in the present. When you combine these two, the present, the doing, not for anything that you are going to get out of it, or not because you are doing it as a prayaschitta for something that happened in the past. You do it. Why you do it? Because that's what ought to be. You do because this is what ought to be done. Self-sufficiency arises. Relatively speaking. A person with relative self-sufficiency will know how to look at his own desires with clarity. Desires disappears. Because you understand desire is nothing but a hope. And the Upanishads have declared it very clearly. Of vain hopes. All hopes are in, that's Upanishadic statement. Of vain hopes. Of vain hopes. Of vain hopes. But hope how to live, sir? Yeah. When I leave the house, I have to give a hope, no? And tell my mother, hope has to be given, no? Then only, how can you live? All that you say for the sake of things, but deep inside you understand that all this has no meaning. That's all. That brings about self-sufficiency. In the absolute sense, you attain enlightenment only. Relatively speaking, the distance will give you the ability to look at it clearly. The moment you look at it clearly, the moment you see desires with clarity, desires vanishes. That's why he says, knowledge alone liberates. Bodhonya sadhane yogi sakshan mokshaika sadhanam. The only way for the Atma-bodha, he says, the way to attain liberation is through the right knowledge. And what is the right knowledge? You know how to see it clearly. How do you know that you are seeing it clearly? It ceases to exist. The moment you see it clearly, it ceases to exist. That's the indication that you have right knowledge. The moment you see it clearly, in the case of the rope and the snake, the moment you see it clearly, what ceases to exist? Snake. I have understood, sir. I have understood it's a rope only. Only in the tail portion, mattunda, baki. 95% I have understood that it is the rope. 5% I will get over that also. Even if you see little bit of tail, you are only seeing the snake. You are only seeing the snake. You see the snake, you imagine a rope there. Actually speaking, yeah. You see the world and you have to imagine a divinity supporting this world. Divinity becomes imagination, the world becomes real. When you gain the right knowledge, the world becomes unreal and the divine becomes real. And you can't have two realities. You can't see the world also as real and God also as real. There can be only one. The moment you see it clearly, it ceases to exist. That is knowledge. That's what right knowledge is all about. That's the power of knowledge, he says. That's the power of right knowledge. That's the power of right understanding. And human being has no other way except knowledge. What is the power of this knowledge? A cave in darkness for millions and millions of years, the cave is in darkness. Millions and millions of years of darkness doesn't need millions and millions of years of light. The moment you strike the matchstick, darkness vanishes. But millions of years of darkness, how dense is the darkness, how intense is the darkness, how can the first matchstick itself can take away all the darkness? Logically you may not be able to understand it, but the truth is, when knowledge comes, the whole thing disappears. That's the first prayer of the human being. The first prayer of the human being is the Gayatri mantra. That's why when they are initiated into the prayer at the age of 6-7, they are initiated into the Gayatri. That's the first prayer that a human being is supposed to say. For 60 Lagura we don't say, that's a different. Dhiyo yo na prachodayat. Gayatri mantra. Dhiyo yo na prachodayat. Dhi means buddhi. The Sanskrit word dhi means the intellect, the buddhi. He says that buddhi must be as penetrating as your rays, as your light. It should be very penetrating. And what is the penetrating capacity of the light? It dispels all darkness. That's what clarity is. You see it with clarity. How do you know that you are seeing it with clarity? It ceases to exist. How do you know that you are seeing? How do you know that you have transcended the problem? When you see it with clarity, where you don't see it as a problem anymore. The problem vanishes. All because of what? You are able to see it clearly. You follow? That's what knowledge is. That's what the right understanding is. He is totally self-sufficient. This man is, he says, this man is completely self-sufficient. Even relatively speaking, as you gain the knowledge, you become self-sufficient. Ideally speaking, it should happen. What disturbs others will not disturb you that much. What affects the others will not affect you that much. That itself can be very satisfying. That itself is so liberating. That itself is so satisfying. At that point, not to be stuck at that level and keep moving to the next, till you reach the state of absolute perfection, the state of moksha, liberation. Self-sufficiency is an indicator that you have the right knowledge. How do you know that you have the right knowledge? You see it with clarity, it ceases to exist. If it is existing, means you are not seeing it with clarity. Therefore, self-sufficiency arises through knowledge and understanding. That's why here he keeps on saying it is possible only through knowledge and understanding. And there are so many other ways people try to become self-sufficient. One man believes in power, one person believes in wealth, one person believes in following, another person believes in something else, but nevertheless, self-sufficiency doesn't arise. The spiritual quality, the spiritual development is marked by self-sufficiency. Finally, what is self-sufficiency? The capacity to keep aside everything and do that which you ought to do. The capacity to keep aside all the disturbances and continue to do what you are ought to do, what you are supposed to do. This is self-sufficiency. Because nothing can take you away from what you are supposed to do. It means, relatively, in relation to that, there is self-sufficiency. This man here has attained self-sufficiency in the complete sense. Rejoices in the self, satisfied in the self, contented in the self. 3 times he says, is rejoicing in the self, satisfied in the self, and contented in the self. For him there is nothing to be done. A man who is doing everything says there is nothing to be done. It's not the man who is not doing anything and saying nothing to be done. The man who is doing everything saying for him there is nothing to be done. For doing implies wanting a result. Result implies an attainment. Result implies an achievement. All doing, all actions are directed towards a result. Result means an attainment. Result means an achievement. And that attainment and that achievement gives a satisfaction. That is the hope. It doesn't give the satisfaction. For the satisfaction has to be found, the joy has to be found in the very doing. The very doing itself is so satisfying. Now whatever happens doesn't matter. There is nothing to be done. You always remember this. Action, the result has 2 things. One is you as an individual. Another is the actual result. One is your doing, second is the actual result. The result is always collective. Doing is individual. Doing is individual, result is, and that gets very ironical. The farmer can plough the field individually with sincerity and wait. Successful farming is dependent upon the rains, the right amount of rains, over which he has no control. You follow? When will he be a successful farmer? When can he call himself a successful farmer? When you call yourself a successful, if the farmer wants to call himself a successful farmer only based on the result, in 40 years of farming, he will be unsuccessful 35 years. You follow? Another thing is, from his side he can do what he ought to do, and that doing that which he ought to do itself can give him a tremendous satisfaction. That is self-sufficiency, contentment, irrespective of the result, because he understands that result is always of collective. Like, you can score a triple century and still lose, no? Individually you can score a triple century, and match you can lose. You can score duck in both the innings and still hold the winning trophy. No, the result is collective. Result is never individualistic. That's why the wise one doesn't arrogate the result at all, because it is not only, it's always collective. Collective means direct, indirect, known, unknown, all put together. What the individual can do? The individual can be sincere in his doing. When he does it, he keeps growing. And what is the sign of growth? Self-sufficiency. The sign of growth is self-sufficiency. Always understand this in relation to the result. The result is always collective. So if you have to assess yourself through the result, you will be very disappointed. The difficulty here is, everyone believes that they are sincere already. Everyone believes that they are dedicated already. Angadam Rao. If all are sincere, how can the result go differently? You follow what I am saying? What is the proof of sincerity, dedication? There is a distance. That's why I gave so many indicators. What is the proof of sincerity? What is the proof of dedication? You may come and ask how to inculcate sincerity in another, but you can never ask how to bring into, because that I have abundance. அவர்கிட்ட அபண்டன்ஸா வேற இருக்குதான் இருக்குதானே அவர்கிட்ட இல்ல வெங்கட். ஒரு 30 வருஷமா இருக்கிறாரா? அபண்டன்ஸ்ல தான் இருக்கு. அதுதான் அபண்டன்ஸ்ல இருக்குது. வரணும். So interesting. Sometimes during the lectures, I will be sitting in the books. Sitting in the bookstall, you see people coming in. 1,500, 2,000 people come in. They go out. All will be thinking, all that he said is correct. All that he said is correct, perfectly applicable to the other. அவங்களுக்கு ஒருத்ததான் சொன்னார், எனக்கு இதெல்லாம் இல்லை. பிகாஸ் ஆல் தட் ஹி செட் ஐ எம் பிராக்டிசிங் ஆல்ரெடி. Beyond a point, you really do not know who is he talking to, who is listening. The difficulty when it comes to these things is the person assumes that he has it already. That's why the shift goes to the result externally. A wise man shifts it to himself. When he is shifting it to himself means is satisfaction arising out of the doing. A contented person attracts abundance. A discontented person repels. This is the law of attraction. A contented person attracts abundance. A discontented man repels. Relatively, he keeps saying no. Unselfishness is always attractive. Selfishness is very repelling. This is what it means. Ramakirtha says, when you go to God, you have to put on your best front and go. Like when you go to meet the Prime Minister, how you will go? Supposing you got an appointment with the Prime Minister, how you will go? You will put on the best dress, rent will put or borrow it from someone and use and put the best. When you go to divine, when you go to God, put on your best. What does putting on your best means? What is the opposite of that? Beggars are not wanted anywhere, he says. Beggars are not wanted anywhere. Beggars are not welcome. Who's welcomed? A person who experiences this abundance. He is welcomed. Not the one who is begging. Ramakirtha says, beggars means lack of self-sufficiency. Who's the beggar? He can't do anything to himself, sitting and you call him? When you are self-sufficient, you attract. When you lack self-sufficiency, you repel. Who you will want to associate with? See, imagine a person who is dependent on you. Will you want to associate with that person? Who you will want to associate with? A person whom you can rely upon. A person whom you can depend upon. It means what? In relation to you, in relation to that, he is self-sufficient. It's okay? It's like that. It's as simple as that. Someone is so dependent on you, first 2-3 days it will be very nice. First 2-3 days will be very nice to feel. Fourth day, you take the phone, you see the call from that person, you will feel like block. Call block. Self-sufficiency is attraction. You attract. They talk about the law of attraction, no? How do you attract? You attract when you are self-sufficient. How do you attract it? What is the mechanism? How does it work? You are so focused on doing, you are so contented about doing, you are so relaxed while you are doing. How do you attract? Technically understand it. A person who is relaxed can concentrate better. A person who is serious, disturbed cannot concentrate. That's why when a person is disturbed, you don't bring the person to the classroom, for he cannot concentrate. Able to follow? When you are relaxed, when you are not tensed, when you are not serious, it means when you are. That's why if something important has to be said, a joke will be told first. In that joke, in that joke, you smile, you laugh, you are relaxed. When you are relaxed, the receptivity is also high. Temporarily speaking. You follow what I am saying? This is how it works. Opposite of that is when you are so serious, nothing will. You cannot penetrate into the other. How does one attract? When you are concentrating, your efficiency is so high, automatically you attract the result. When can you concentrate? When can you efficient? When will you be able to be efficient? When you are relaxed. First day when you sit to drive the car, at least I also drove like that. In fact, my first driving in the car was a disaster. He gave 1994. Once he was going on a tour, he gave the car key and said, before I come back, you should have learnt driving in the academy. I learned driving in the academy. Ashram's car. Gave the car. So I sat. First day after he left, sat in the car. A fellow who taught me. He's a real driver. He said next to me, he said, started. Gear. Press, it's not moving. He said, press it hard. I pressed it hard. Accelerator. Pressed it. Here is the press. I followed the instruction. Press. Next second, bang. There used to be a lemon tree there. Before in front of the car parking, there used to be a lemon tree. The car went and the whole back got smashed. He is looking at me, I am looking at him, not knowing what to do. Hands and legs shivering. Oh my God. See, at least now there are 20 cars standing. If one car becomes wrong, there are other cars that can be used. In though that's the only one car also. Put it and left the car and service lam banni, we made it. First thing he will ask you about this, that only. You make a mistake and you want to cover it up, first thing he will ask is, how he knows? God only knows, sir. First question he will ask that. As soon as we got down from the car, how is your driving? That's not driving la. Why did you stop? So what if it got? And why did you stop? I said, no, I was feeling very see. When I gave you the car key, I wrote that car off, he said. I tell you, you couldn't you started laughing. I couldn't do all the seriousness. He said, see, when I gave you the car key, I wrote that car off. Therefore, go back and start. Then he said, what happened? I didn't know that there is a thing called handbrake. It was on. I didn't know there is a thing called handbrake, and that fellow forgot to say release the handbrake. It will it will. He is saying it's a slope anyway. You put nala, it has to roll down. Why it is not rolling down? Accelerate. What happens? Bang to the volume. The result is so tensed that action came to an action of learning the driving stopped. I can give any number of examples. Just one case. When you are relaxed, you can concentrate better. When you can concentrate better, your efficiency increases, you attract. This is how it works, technically speaking. When you are tensed, when you are agitated, when you are disturbed, you will not be able to concentrate. When you cannot concentrate, there is no efficiency. How can you attract the result? You don't chase the result, you attract the result, he says. And how do you attract the result? When you work like a king or when you work like a slave. You can do an action like a slave or you can do an action like the king. You know, the kings, royalty, even today it is true. The Queen of England doesn't have a passport. You know that? She doesn't have a passport. She doesn't need a passport. All that she has to say is, I am coming to India, and she has to take the royalty. That is royalty. Not that she has to carry any money also with her. If she is hungry, she can walk into any restaurant. If the person says, okay, well, on the talihe, straight away go there, eat. And the owner also will say, oh, thank you for coming in. You can work you can act like a king or you can act like a slave. Self-sufficiency is actions happening like how a king acts. See, individually he doesn't own it. There is an individual owner for that. But what makes the king different? Even though he is not the owner, he owns it. No. There is an individual owner, and that individual owner is responsible for the profit and loss. But king is, that's why it's different. No, like he says in the poem on his blindness, his state is kingly. John Milton, in the poem on his blindness, he says, his state is kingly. What is that kingly state? The king walks in with the attitude of self-sufficiency, because he understands that it's all his. Opposite of that is, you go to your own relative's house, you feel so embarrassed to even ask for a glass of water. No. You will not even feel like asking for a glass of water when you are thirsty. Opposite of that is this man, like a king. His state is kingly. That is self-sufficiency. Walking in like the king. And what is walking in like the king means? What does that mean? Free access. What does kingly means? Received with honor. That attitude. What is the kingly? That attitude of self-sufficiency. He experiences so much of richness, he experiences so much of abundance, he sees himself in in all the areas of the kingdom. He is the one who is existing. So in relation to that, he is so self-sufficient. Opposite to the king is the subject who has a boundary. Your boundary starts and ends within the 60-40 site. Your ownership is only to that 60-40. If your 1000 square feet flat, it is only reality you don't. The king is opposite. What is that? Self-sufficiency. Everyone is attracted to him. Not because of the power, not because of the wealth. That state. What is that state? Self-sufficiency. What does that self-sufficiency means? He has so much, your demands also he can meet. That is self-sufficiency. Able to follow? He has so much in abundance that your demands also he can meet. He is not a king where you have to feed him, then he is not the king. You follow? That is self-sufficiency. All boils down to one word: knowledge and understanding. All boils down to one word: knowledge and understanding. What is this knowledge and understanding? The ability to see it clearly. And if you have to see it clearly, you need to maintain a distance. Because it is a distance that will help you to see it with clarity. Knowledge brings about this. As a result of this clarity, no situation is under this. There is no situation that he will not know how to handle. Because of that, he is all the time joyful, blissful, relaxed, not tense. Any word you can use. Here he uses the word self-sufficiency. Satisfied in the self, by the self, and rejoices in the, contented in the self. Rejoices in the self, satisfied in the self. At every layer of the personality, he is self-sufficient. The demands of the body doesn't disturb him. The demands of the mind doesn't disturb him. The demands of the knowledge, the intellect doesn't. All this exists on one side. His self-sufficiency rules over all this. He has nothing to, for him there is nothing to be done. Why? Because he has already done the impossible. For a man who has already done the impossible, nothing else to be. And what is the impossible? To understand the ego, to conquer the ego, to eliminate the ego is impossible. For that man who has done that which is the most impossible thing, down the line he has nothing to do. For it is the ego that believes in doing something. The ego believes in achieving something out of that. Doing is always for achieving. Doing is always for achieving something. That's why you tell the man, what will I get? You have to tell him what you will get. Then only. For doing is always for achieving. This man here has already done, he has already achieved the highest. He has already done the impossible. He has already done the miracle. What is it? He has understood the ego. He saw the ego so clearly that the ego vanished. The ego disappeared. The ego will stop disassociating with you and it will run away from you because you are seeing it with clarity. And once you see it with clarity, it sticks with you forever. It sticks with you for, that is wisdom. Any knowledge all worldly knowledges has a fallacy in it. The fallacy of the worldly knowledge is, you stop doing it, you will lose it very soon. That's why they say keep doing. Why? Because if you stop doing it, you will lose it. You learn a language. If you don't use that language, you will forget it very soon. You learn a skill. If you are not doing it all the time, if you are not using it all the time, you will lose it very soon. That's the difficulty of the worldly knowledges. Here is the knowledge which is totally different. What is the difference? Once you see it, once you know how to see it with clarity, it stays with you forever. That which stays with you forever brings you self-sufficiency. That which is temporary cannot bring you self-sufficiency. That's how knowledge brings self-sufficiency to this man. Able to follow now? That which stays with him forever, he has an access to it. He has it. Therefore, he is self-sufficient. For all worldly knowledges can never bring that self-sufficiency, because if you stop it, you will lose it. My certificate says I know so much about chemistry, that marks. Not one word I can remember. It's so much, it's such a thing. I finished a German diploma in 1.5 years. Now, not even one word in German language I remember. If I have to start, I have to start. From all over again I have to start. Duncan C. Lend I have to start. Ich heißen Sie Lend I have to start. Even today. Why? Not doing it, you lose it. But then, wisdom is not like that. That which stays with you permanently is that which gives you self-sufficiency. Relatively speaking, understand it like this. So once you learn swimming, you can never forget it. Even 40 years later also, if you are pushed into water, you will know how to swim. If you have learned cycling, you can never, you know that? If you have learned cycling, you can never forget it. 50 years later also, you sit in the cycle, you can start pedaling. You can start moving. Self-sufficiency is that. It comes to you and stays with you forever, and nothing can take it away from you. Then you are self-sufficient. Lot of effort you put to acquire it, and much more effort has to be done to keep it alive. You stop doing it for 6 months, you forget it, you lack self-sufficiency. Everyone would have, I am giving my example. Every one of you can give your own example, because all of us would have developed so many skills, and you would have forgotten also so many things. Why? The very good surgeons, they don't take a holiday from surgery. They keep doing. Every day they do a surgery. In Mysore, that man said, sir, 1 week if I take a holiday, the first 2 surgeries after the holiday, mistakes happen. I said, solidu by ingita accept. Anniki na varamatan the surgery. Next day I will come. Got any problem? No. Who wants to take this plan? You follow? Self-sufficiency is that which stays with you forever. Nothing can take it away. Then you are self-sufficient. If someone can take it away from you, then what is self-sufficiency? You are dependent only. That's why freedom, if someone gives you freedom, then it's not freedom. Because the man who has given you freedom can take it away also. If God gives you freedom, the same God who gave you freedom can take that freedom away also. So freedom is your intrinsic being means what? Freedom is your intrinsic nature. Freedom is your intrinsic being means what? Nobody can take it away from you. Chances are you can forget about it, but you can never lose it. That's what the wise men tell us. Divine is that you are already, it is not taken away from you, but you have forgotten. Summa refresh button, press the refresh button, the whole thing. Where to find that? You follow? Self-sufficiency is that which cannot be taken away from you. If it can be taken away from you, then it cannot be yours. Only if it is yours, you can become self-sufficient. If it can be taken away from you, you cannot call it as yours. And everything can be taken away from you. It means none of this can give you self-sufficiency. Since all that you have can be taken away from you, in your deepest core, you know that it can be taken away from you. That's how much ever you have it, you still lack, you still feel that void. You always feel that lack of self-sufficiency, because you know it can be taken away. If no one takes away, death will. No one takes it away, death will take it away. Apra enna sir pandrathu? He says even death can't. Even death is powerless in front of, because it is the intrinsic nature. Understanding this, recognizing this, makes you self-sufficient. Okay. This is what self-sufficiency is. This man, he says, is contented, rejoices in the self, satisfied in the self, and content in the self alone. For him there is nothing to be done. And we all have so many things to do. I also have something to do. Because at the class go on to another. So many things to be done. For that man there is nothing. What a state. Nothing to be done. Yeah, that's the state of Shiva. Shivanayana, they said no. There is nothing to be done. While doing is happening, the attitude of nothing needs to be done. That is self-sufficiency. It's not stopping the doing. While doing everything, the attitude is there is nothing to be done. That is self-sufficiency. Opposite of that is even when you don't do anything, you have a backlog of so many things to do. That is not nothing to be. You are doing it. As you are doing, you understand there is nothing to be done. Why? The ultimate sense, the whole lot is one whole projection of the mind. In the ultimate sense, the whole thing is a projection of the mind. It's so illusory. It's so temporary. What is there to be done in this? Nothing to be done in the absolute sense. That is very easy to discuss. But even relatively speaking, it is difficult to understand the concept of self-sufficiency. That's why I am discussing it more on a relative plane, not from the absolute sense of what is self-sufficiency. The man who rejoices in the self, satisfied in the self, content in the self, for him there is nothing. We all have so many things. One day it will come to the moment you develop the right the right vision. The distance gives you the right vision. And what is the right knowledge means? Right understanding means it ceases to exist. It ceases to exist. That's the proof. That's the proof of seeing it clearly. The proof of seeing the snake clearly is snake. Snake ceases to exist. But snake is there. It wasn't there even yesterday. That is clarity. You follow? You see, consider this rope and the snake. You see the rope. Where there is a rope, you see a snake. Even as you are seeing the snake, even as you are experiencing the snake, even as you are affected by the snake, does the snake exist? It never existed. That's how we become wise. Even when you are seeing the snake, even when you are experiencing the snake, even when you are affected by the snake, the question is, does the snake exist? It doesn't. But it continues to exist as long as you see it. It continues to exist as long as you see it. Therefore, the longevity to the snake is given by whom? Snake has no longevity. The longevity to the snake is given by 100 million years. You are seeing it for 100 million years. It disappeared. You have seen it. You follow? That's what the proof of knowing is. The proof of knowing is it ceases to exist. The proof of you know how to handle the situation is problem ceases to exist. No. You know how to handle it. The fact that you know how to handle it means it ceases to exist. This is self-sufficiency. சரியா?